Picture a college bar on a Saturday night. The music is loud, the floor is packed, and there is a constant flow of people pushing their way through the front doors. In a modern city, every one of those movements is tracked. You walk into a building, a camera sees you. You buy a drink, a server remembers you. You step outside, a lens captures your exit. Now imagine someone stepping into that highly monitored space, caught clearly on video walking through the entrance, and then never coming back out. Brian Shaffer's disappearance is a documented historical event, leaving investigators with a physical impossibility that has never been solved. Brian Shaffer was a 27-year-old medical student in Columbus, Ohio. He was intelligent, highly focused, and building a demanding career with a clear trajectory. But beneath that academic drive, he was carrying a massive amount of stress. He had recently lost his mother, a sudden tragedy that left him deep in grief. Despite that heavy emotional weight, his timeline on April 1st, 2006, paints a picture of complete normalcy. He went bar hopping with his friends. He was laughing, socializing, and showed zero signs of conflict or distress. Late that night, the group ended up at the Ugly Tuna Saloona. The stark contrast between his entirely ordinary behavior and what happened next inside this specific room creates an investigative contradiction. To understand why this case breaks logic, you have to look at the physical architecture. The Ugly Tuna was situated on the second floor, and it relied on a single main entrance for its patrons. That single choke point was continuously covered by a security camera recording everyone who came and went. When Brian went missing, investigators scrubbed that footage. They broke it down frame by frame, accounting for every single person who walked through those doors. The video clearly shows Brian walking into the bar. But after that exact moment, the footage never captures him walking out. Every other patron who entered that night is seen leaving. The unblinking security footage captured a flawless, unbroken timeline, leaving investigators with a spatial impossibility, a room that accepted a person and never released him. The immediate, logical assumption is that Brian found a blind spot and slipped out unseen. This diagram maps out the venue's exits. If you didn't use the main door, the only physical alternatives were construction doors and emergency routes. Police swept all of them and found zero evidence they were accessed. That forces us to consider a darker scenario. Perhaps a violent confrontation happened inside. But look at the density of this space. It was packed shoulder to shoulder. There was no blood, no signs of a struggle, and no witnesses. Any physical event, whether sneaking out a locked service door or being attacked in the middle of a crowd, directly violates the hard spatial and population constraints of the environment. If the physical evidence hits a wall, investigators turn to psychology. Maybe the crushing grief of losing his mother drove Brian to orchestrate his own disappearance and walk away. Hard financial data shuts that down immediately. In the days, weeks, and years following that night, his bank accounts remained perfectly static. Zero cash was withdrawn. He left absolutely no digital footprint. There was no passport activity, no new credit lines, and zero communication with his remaining loved ones. A modern adult cannot build a new life from scratch without generating a wake of data. The complete absence of financial or digital tracking proves the runaway theory is factually hollow. The details of his life post-disappearance are eerily static. Back at his apartment, his personal belongings were left perfectly untouched, waiting for a return that never happened. Then there is the single most unsettling technical anomaly. For months, Brian's cell phone continued to ring when dialed, sending a signal to somewhere before abruptly going totally dead. Since the millisecond he stepped out of the camera's view, no credible leads have surfaced. His entire existence froze in time. We are left with a highly uncomfortable truth. Every logical explanation fails to satisfy both the physical layout of the bar and the digital evidence left behind. Vanishing from a brightly lit, monitored city space full of people challenges the very logic of modern surveillance. We rely on the belief that the modern world is tracked, recorded, and strictly logical. Yet the evidence suggests a human being can simply cease to exist in the middle of a crowded room, as if reality itself just lost him.
Some stories should never be uncovered.